Hey people, welcome to the Wivesroundtable Show. Today on the show, we're going to be discussing something that is of utmost importance to people, especially those who are newly married. Today on the show, we're going to be looking at navigating marriage, especially in the early years. What are the things you ought to expect? What are some of the things that may likely occur in your home as a result of you just being a newly married person? What are some of the slacks that you need to cut yourself as a newly married person? Joining me on the show today to discuss navigating marriage, especially in the early years, I have with me Modukwe Ehirim, aka Mommy Mo. Welcome to Wives Roundtable.
Thank you, Amaka. It's good to be here with you on Wives Roundtable Show again.
Oh yes, it's an absolute pleasure. It's always such a pleasure having you. Like every single time I try to bring you on the show, one thing or the other comes up and you're not able to come. But I persisted.
And you did.
Because honestly, you come with so much knowledge, you come with so much experience. You're over 30 years married, right?
36 years, actually. Absolutely.
So you have been married longer than most people have been born, you know? And your marriage is one that is even intertribal, two completely different kinds of background. So you have a lot of not just even book knowledge, you have lived knowledge, you have experience in this field. And talking to you most times is just very enlightening, just even when you don't mean to be enlightening. So today, let's talk about the early years of marriage. And I really want us to talk about this because we hear so many stories on social media, and you hear single people say, oh, this marriage thing now scares the heck out of me. Oh, you people are scaring me and all of that. And they go into marriage with this fearful mindset. This marriage may not work kind of mindset. And then some of the challenges that naturally come for newly married people then come up, and they say, I said it. Shebi, we all agreed that this marriage thing is a scam, you know. So I need us to talk about this thing, the early years of marriage, especially 0 to 5 years, right? What are some of the challenges that naturally would come up in these baby years? Let's call it that.
Thank you, Amaka. And you know, it's good that we talk about this stuff. One thing that many people do not realize is that the environment in which we do marriage has changed. 50, 60, 100 years ago, a young woman, a young man would listen to many conversations about marriage before they get to marry. Okay. How do I mean? You know, so in the village square, by the stream, when they go to the farm, in the market, women and men will be talking about marriage. So usually by the time a child is 18, even in age grade meetings, you know, conversations about marriage. So one arrives at marriage not being ignorant. The second thing is that in those old days, you are likely to marry from your community. Absolutely. Which means beliefs are common, paradigms are common, perspectives are common, absolutely. Expectations on life are common. Now, fast forward to today. By the time that a person is 18, they even have different life experiences and exposures from their own sibling that they grew up with. So what it means is that we're marrying strangers. So I meet a guy in the university, or we meet during NYSC. Of course, we spent 5 years together in the university, so we have common experiences. But what happened in the 16 to 18 years before we got into university? So fundamentally, the lack of a structure for educating people about marriage in today's world, and then the fact that our experiences are so different, our origins are so different, we're literally marrying strangers.
Absolutely.
So in the early years, once people start to live together, they begin to discover one another. So it looks as if, who is this did I know this person I married? Of course, you feel that way because all of the 19 plus years that they lived before you even got to meet them, some of which they are not conscious of as well. So it isn't always that they withheld information from you. So how do they resolve conflict in their home? How do they talk about issues? How do they manage money? You know, what attitude do they have towards extended family? It's like a fish who has lived in water all of their life, and then somebody who has lived on land all of their life is now saying to them, how are we supposed to survive underwater? The fish would tell you a few things, but the fish has been in water all of their life. There's something they take for granted that they wouldn't even tell you.
Yes.
And so when people come into marriage, it has been researched that when we first meet one another, you know, we're so enthused with one another, we don't pay attention to a lot of things. But when we settle down into marriage, and for some people it will happen 6 months after, for some it will happen 2 years after, but it will eventually happen when we settle down into the relationship and we sort of revert back to our normal self.
When all the euphoria has died down.
And when we get back to our normal self, so, you know, we start wanting to live the way that we are comfortable and familiar with. Now, for a couple who has to be a team, make decisions together, do stuff together, so inevitably it will come up that, you know, we want to do something together. I think it should be done this way. You think it should be done this way. And we both feel very strongly about it. Now, in our culture, we have been nurtured to believe that such disagreements is a sign of trouble.
Bad thing. Yes. I love the fact that you mentioned that these conflicts are not necessarily a bad thing. Like a lot of people, you know, believe. They just believe that, oh, if I love you, then we're not supposed to be quarreling. We're not supposed to be disagreeing, which is absolutely false. So, guys, let's go for a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to touch more on some of these challenges, and then we're going to find a way. I know we may not have the time to fully do so, but just some pointers to what can be done for newly married couples, or newly married people generally, to find that common wavelength so that they can navigate these early years and come out on the other side, the 10th year anniversary, the 25-year anniversary, and look back and just laugh at the silliness that they had to put up with in those early years. That's our prayer and that's our hope. We'll be right back. Wow, guys, this has been an amazing session with Modupe Ehirim, the global Mommy Mo. I mean, if we even decide to end today's episode right here, I'm sure we have done some form of justice to this topic. We have learned so much already. Why is it that there are some of these clashes that happen even with newly married couples? And we've learned that, you know, these two people, even no matter how much in love you are, both of you are to some extent strangers because you grew up completely differently with different life experiences, exposure, different ways of being nurtured, and your origin is also different. So it's not a very bad thing that there are some forms of clashes and some forms of conflict. It's just natural for you guys to find your level, so to say. So, Mommy Mo, what are some of the other things that newly married people need to pay attention to? And then how can they now begin to navigate this space, now knowing that, well, it's kind of natural for us to face some of those things? What can we now do to help each other?
Okay. I think the second primary thing that new couples need to be aware of is that you've got to be careful what you feed yourself about marriage. Are there bad marriage stories? Of course, there are. There are people who make mistakes. There are people whose psychology is wrong. There are people who are toxic, and we can't deny that. However, there is also what we call negativity bias. Amaka, Negativity bias is probably doing more injury to marriages than every other thing combined. And what do I mean by that? If you listen to 5 bad marriage stories, you need 25 good marriage stories to erase the impact of those 5 marriage stories on your mind. So now imagine that you give yourself a diet of bad marriage stories in order to discover what to avoid. What it means is that you probably are building a fortress around you, but of what use is a fortress to you if the enemy is inside the fortress? And the real enemy is lack of what I call basic life skills. So how do I communicate effectively so that somebody gets my point of view even if they disagree with me? How do I make decisions together with somebody who I have to go with together even though we have different perspectives on important issues? How do I let somebody know what is on my mind instead of assuming that they actually know because I'm showing them with my behavior and my body language? How do I understand that a lot of what my spouse is doing to me actually has nothing to do with me, in the sense that it's not that they're intentionally looking at me and wanting to do me harm, but they're just living out a pattern that they're so familiar with, they themselves are not even conscious of. So once you also say to yourself, I'm in this marriage in order for it to succeed, where do I get good marriage stories that not just play to the gallery, but teach me the skills that I need to have, teach me the attitude that I need to have, provide models for me that remind me that these things can work in spite of difficulty. If you apply yourself to such a task, you have done yourself a world of good. Now, after that, the other thing that you would need to pay attention to is that marriage is like a business. I usually say to young couples, who will start a business and then the executive committee will not meet, for months, for years. They will not sit together to say, how do we want to go forward in this marriage? Any company that is running that way is guaranteed to crash. Because when will they think about the markets that they are addressing? When will they check whether the products they're putting out is okay? So what happens is that when a couple does not have what we call executive committee meeting or have open day, which is what we call it in family systems, it means that they're operating on the go. So things happen to them, they have to respond to it as they are going. They have no well thought of strategy. Let me give you a quick illustration. A lot of people talk about should husband and wife join money. I have no problems with where your money is kept. I don't even have problems with husbands and wives deciding to hold their monies in their hand. But if a man and woman are going to live together and their house rent has to be paid, the landlord doesn't care what their internal financial management is. So if they say the husband is the one who is going to be paying the rent and for some reason he doesn't pay it, if the landlord comes and the wife is at home, the landlord is going to insult the wife. The wife is going to feel bad. So really and truly, the wife needs to know that the rent has been paid. So when a couple understands that their life are just joined together, then they take time to, ask themselves, how do we want our family to be governed? How are we going to manage finances in our family? How are we going to do parenting and all of those things? And they think about it in advance. I would say if you're single and you're listening to me, please, please, please go for professional marriage counseling. What professional marriage counseling does for you is what I've just done. You get taught how to think about marriage and how to be strategic about your life together, factoring in the fact that you are coming to marriage with unique maps of the world. Now, if you are already married, nothing spoiled. Just know that the day you wake up is your morning.
Yeah.
Cultural issues abound. They're just a part and parcel of life, this and that. All of those things abound. And please, it's not peculiar to us here in Nigeria alone. The world over, even all of the places where we look at, cultural issues also come up. But awareness that these cultural issues are there and they're going to cause conflict, which is natural. And there's something I'd like you to take away from here today. See conflict as the door to intimacy. Every time that there is conflict between a new couple, just understand that there is something that I don't know yet, or that I know in part, or that I need to explore more with my spouse. That is what conflict is saying to you, because you are thinking this way, he or she is thinking this way, and both of you need to go forward together. And Amaka, I don't want to, talk about all of this without addressing the fact that there are toxic marriages, because all of what I have spoken about affects two types of marriages. I believe that there are three types of marriages. The first is the regular marriage. The regular marriage is the one that no matter how much you people love yourself and you're very healthy emotionally and everything, you will still have disagreements. Why? Because of the unique maps of the world. You may have weaknesses in the basic life skills, communication, relating with one another, and so on. Everybody has that. That's the regular type of marriage. If you're in that kind of marriage, you need have no fear. You just need to up your skills and find who knows the road to follow them. That's the one. The second type of marriage is the distressed marriage. So the distressed marriage are these people who have the kind of marriage that I described earlier, but then circumstances of life throw them curves. So they don't have children in time. One of them is ill. One of them loses their job. All those kind of things that can make ordinary level-headed people to go crazy happen to them. Again, those people just need to find who know road to follow them, and then also get help to live with the trauma of what all of these things introduced. Now, there is a third type of marriage, which I call a toxic marriage. In a toxic marriage, one partner or both of them is incapable or unwilling to do what is required to make a marriage work.
Yes.
And without shaming anybody, the illustration that shows it vividly is if somebody is married to somebody who is addicted to substance. Until that person goes to rehabilitation, they don't have the capacity to actually do all of these things that we're talking about. And so whatever counsel we give to the partner of such a person is like pouring water on the back of a calabash, because they're incapable. And addressing that is not by asking questions on social media, is not by, talking to your friends, it's just by going to look for a professional counselor who will ask you for the details of your situation and who will then be able to guide you as to what your next steps are supposed to be.
Wow, Mommy Mo, I don't know. It's deep. You've taken us deep. Like, I've just been listening, and I know so many people, loads of people right now have gotten value. Guys, we can take this to social media. Let's do that. So, hook up with us on social media, Instagram or Facebook at Wivesroundtable. I'm going to find a time for Mommy Mo to now come on social media to have this conversation with us again, so that you can now ask her your questions directly. Because I know that these conversations have brought up some questions in your mind, and you're wondering, oh, why can't I just call in right now? I have this question I want to ask. I can feel you, but don't worry. Just follow us on social media so that you find out when we can have Mommy Mo over on our social media platform to do more justice to this topic. My name is Amaka Chibuzo-Obi, and until I come your way next week, love everyone around you, but most importantly, love yourself, because you can't give what you don't have. Have a very good day, my friends. Bye for now.